So before we get started, just wanted to throw it out there that our internet at the office is giving us a little bit of issues. So you might see on the video screen, either when I'm talking or when Randy's talking, that there's a little bit of a delay or a stoppage or something. But we were testing it out before we started, and the audio seems to be working well, which is the important part. So, so we should be okay. But with that being said, hello and welcome to our third webinar. For those of you who are returning, either you came to the first one, the second one, or both, welcome back. Thank you for joining us again. If this is your first time, welcome. And this is a webinar series. This is the third webinar of 4 that we are doing. We do plan on doing more webinars in the future, but our 4-week series, this is the third of the 4. Before I hand things over to Randy, just a few things I want to go over. First, I'm Joe Salvatore, if you do not know me, part of the CCM team here. Like I was saying earlier, this is the third of 4 webinar series, so the webinar for next week, if you do want to attend that one, you can look for the invitation in your email tomorrow. That will be sent out. For this webinar, so the format, the way that we're going to do it is I'll hand things over to Randy. He'll go through his presentation. If you do have any questions throughout the presentation, if you highlight your mouse over the video itself, you'll see a little control panel at the bottom that pops up. There is a Q&A box. So if you click on that Q&A box, you can type in your question. And then at the end of the presentation, I will come back on and ask Randy any of the questions that you all asked. And that is how we will do that. Another thing to keep in mind, this webinar is being recorded for the people who were not able to attend, or if anyone wants to go back and watch it. So you will see a recording icon in the top left. And another thing is that all of this is private. So your information on the attendance list, the questions that you ask, me and Randy are the only 2 who can see that. Nobody else can. And that's everything. So thank you again for attending, and I will hand things over to Randy, and I will come back at the end.
Hello, everyone. Welcome. I want to thank you for joining us today. As Joe already said, this is our 3rd webinar. In this, we try to do it in 30-day period, and next week will be the 4th. Those of you who have missed ours, first webinar we talked about was required minimum distribution and coronavirus related exceptions. And last week we talked about 401ks, 403bs, IRAs, and loans you could take in 401ks, and what to do in this crazy market. And obviously today we're going to talk about Social Security and how to reduce some of your taxes by utilizing some of the CARES Act that have enacted back in March 27th. So once again, if you have any questions, please do write that in the email, and Joe will be reading that to me later on. He will go through, and I'll try to answer as many as we can. I want to thank you for being here again. For those of you who are mothers, I want to congratulate you and thank you for being a mother in this Mother's Day this past week. I hope you really enjoyed the time with your family. And you know, obviously my wife is a mother, and now I have a daughter who's a mother, and they certainly enjoyed themselves this weekend. So thank you again for taking care of us. Anyway, what I want to talk to you about is the Social Security and how to reduce your taxes by utilizing some of the options that was given in the Act. The CARES Act stands for Coronavirus Aid, Relief, and Economic Security Act. It's a far-reaching bill. It has over 11, I believe over close to 1,100. I know it's well over 1,000 pages detailing its funding, loans, and tax provisions designed to provide the economic relief that we're going through. Before we got to the Social Security planning and CARES Act, this is part of your retirement planning. A lot of us plan on retiring, and when we do look for Social Security checks to come in. I know those of you who have worked for the government as a civil servant, civil service, you get the annuity payment from the government, and you may not be getting any Social Security checks. But even though I'm not going to be talking a lot about that, if you have gone through and worked for the government and you get the annuity payment, you could still qualify for the benefit that was recently given out, some of the stimulus money that's coming out. So you may want to look into that if you haven't yet. If you got your check, congratulations. If you didn't, you may want to look into it why. And I know most people have gotten the checks by this week, but I'm told that they're continuing to do that for the next couple of weeks. As part of the retirement planning, today we're going to talk about also some of the investments. I just looked at the stock market just a few minutes ago. I think Dow Jones is down over 500 points. But that really came about, and the market was up earlier after our Federal Reserve Chairman, Jerome Powell, after he talked about that this pandemic may last a little longer, and not knowing exactly what direction we're going, markets started to go down drastically in the last hour. So I hope that people realize that market, when it fluctuates like this, just relax. It's not normal what's going on. So, we try to help you. We try to work with you to understand that. Let me worry about that. Let me help you to do that. So as a retirement plan, investment planning, and especially now when the market's down, a lot of people are thinking about or glad that they have their money in a safeguarded into an asset. Some of you have worked with me over the years, and when the market is down, you're even more glad that you are safeguarding some of your money. So let's talk about Social Security and what it means. For most people, Social Security should be only about 40%, up to 40% of your full retirement amount. The other 60% of your retirement should be coming from the savings, money that you may have saved in your 401ks, 403bs, or TSPs, any other funding that you may have done over the years. So if the total amount, including Social Security, comes in, most people will have good retirement. If for some reason you have not saved a lot of money, and then Social Security might be the big portion of your retirement. But today we're going to mostly talk about Social Security benefits. Last week we talked about the other portion of it. So let's get into that a little bit more. This Social Security Act that includes a lot of different things, especially income strategies that you may want to use for IRAs, 401ks, and total Social Security. What came out of this act mainly was for required minimum distributions that you may not need to take this year. So that's what changed. The biggest retirement-related change was exactly that. So anybody who were getting the RMDs, if your birthday was prior to July 1 of last year, then obviously you had to take your retirement RMDs this year. But if your birthday was beyond July 1 of last year or later, then you do not need to take any RMDs this year in 2020. For those of you who may have gotten, because you thought that you had to take it in 2020, so you have taken the RMDs. If you have taken the money in January, unfortunately, there's nothing you can do. But if you have taken the RMDs in month of February, March, and April, even till now, that if you don't need the money, you could give it back. And you could suspend the RMD payment for 2020 from 2019 numbers. You don't need to ever catch that up. Is kind of a government way of telling you, since everyone's kind of hurting now, that you don't need to take the RMD to pay extra taxes. So if you decide to do that, and if you were getting the money in February, March, and April, send it back. Send it back to where you got it from. So that also comes out of not only the IRAs, but it could be part of your 401ks, any inherited retirement accounts or 403bs, 457s, TSPs, the other accounts that you may be familiar with. So let me tell you what kind of impact this has caused. It can be a huge benefit for retirees by leaving your money into your RMDs and not taking that out. Because the market has gone down so drastically, you may want to leave it in there so you could have more money that could be recovered from the market downturn. You still have the flexibility to pull the money out at any time in 2020. So at the end of the year, if you need the money, take it out and spend it. If you don't need the money, leave it in there. But most of you have took the money out in the past, and you're used to paying the taxes. So you may have some other opportunities that you may want to utilize by taking the money out and still paying the taxes. And I'll be going over that in a few minutes. So suspension of this IRA account or from your 401k, since you don't need to take that out, well, you may want to use that money instead, taking it out and paying taxes, and not taking it out, you don't need to pay taxes. But what about using that money as an idea of a Roth conversion? Right now, market's down. So if you had an account, let's say $100,000 and market's down 30%, or now he has a rebounded back, maybe we're only down 20%, but whatever the amount that is down, if you were to convert that to Roth, obviously you got to pay taxes on it. However, by paying taxes, you're buying the shares at the discount rate. So if the market went down 30% from 100,000, is worth 70,000, you'd be only paying taxes based on the 70,000, not 100. You know, however way you rebounds back, it's going to rebound back the same way, but just realize that you got benefit of having the discount of 20-30%, which means when it rebounds back, every dollar that you have switched over to Roth from IRA, because you pay taxes on it at a lower rate in the future, as long as you keep it for 5 years, every dollar that comes out of your Roth is tax-free. So that's something that you may want to do when the taxes are low like now. It's best time to do it. I truly believe that because of what's going on, all the money they were spending, helping people out with this stimulus money, I think we spent over $3 trillion already. And I heard yesterday that House of Representatives is going to vote sometime either tomorrow or Friday to see if they could spend another $3 trillion. You know, I really don't know where this money is coming from. All I know is more money we spend that we don't have. We're just adding to the national debt. By doing so, really, it's going to hurt our kids and grandkids. So I do worry about that a lot. I know some of you have saved your life savings, your retirement, and if you're not using it, you're hoping that your kids and grandkids will get it. Well, guess what? Unfortunately, whether you take the money out and pay taxes now or later versus your kids or grandkids way down the road, I think the tax rate is going to be much, much higher down the road. So that may be another reason why you may want to do some Roth conversions. If you don't do that and you don't do the conversion, you decide to leave the money in an account or send it back so that you didn't take an RMD, while more money you have in your retirement account is going to grow at extra by that much. So you're going to have more money working for you. So if you don't need the money, don't just take it out and pay taxes and leave it in the savings account. That really doesn't help you. Some of you like that idea because money that you have in the bank, you feel you're very comfortable because you could get to it anytime. I always have said before, if you own a home and you have a lot of equity lines set there, you may want to open up an equity line of credit from your bank or credit union. And, whenever you need it, you could utilize that. And if you don't need the money, then obviously you're not going to have to worry about paying any interest on it. So think about that. You got many different options, either taking the money or suspending it because you're allowed to do it in 2020, or with the same idea of, even though you don't need the money, take the money and pay taxes on that, but use the money that you got to do the Roth conversion at a discount, because again, the value of your accounts are down, so it may be a good thing to do, especially if you got heavily into the equity or stock market. So that's something to think about. So think about doing it now, because I truly believe the tax rate will be much higher down the road. So let's talk about the Social Security benefits that we have. What has changed since the CARES Act have gone in? Social Security benefits are not directly impacted by that. However, because of a Section 2302, which really works for business owners, whether you are self-employed or if you're an individual employer, you may be able to push off not paying your FICA taxes from March 27th through end of this year. You don't need to send that in, your portion of it. You know that whenever you as an employee have to put 6.2% of the portion goes towards your retirement, your employer also matches that. If you're a self-employed, you've been paying in 12.4%, 6.2 twice, into the Social Security so you could receive that benefit later on. Well, from March 27th through December of this year, if you decided not wanting to pay that, you could. You don't need to send that in. However, whatever the money that you owe between March 27th through end of this year, you got to pay that within the next 2 years. So by December 2021, you have to pay back 50% of the money that you didn't send it in this 2020, and the other half, 50%, has to be paid to the IRS by end of 2022. So you're only delaying what you need to pay so that you can receive the Social Security benefit when you retire. But that's an option. A lot of us, as a business owners, you may be hurting right now, not being able to work. We're very fortunate in that we're essential workers, so we're able to come to work and still work and helping you. But a lot of people are not able to go to work. So I hope this changes very quickly. And I understand our governor is going to be speaking at 5 o'clock tonight. I'm really hoping for him to announce maybe our phase 1 could start now, so some of us could start going back to work. What impact does this have, having this CARES Act going in because of what's going on in the marketplace? While coronavirus epidemic can put more pressure on the Social Security Trust Fund because not much money is going in. If you're not working, you're not putting money in there. So a lot of people are actually not putting the money in. But even before that, Social Security Trust Fund was going to run out in 2033 or 2034, depends on who you talk to. But money was going to run out. If it didn't run out, you're only going to receive 78% of the benefit you should have received starting in 2034. So let me talk about some of the other benefits of that. By pushing off and not paying your self-employed taxes, or not having enough money going into your federal insurance contribution, that's what FICA stands for. Because you're not putting the money in there, and trust fund's going to be less. But my understanding is government's going to put that back into that system sometime down the road. But that's not even guaranteed. Whenever I hear the government said they're going to pay the money down the road, does that really mean they're going to pay it, or they're going to ask us to pay more taxes down the road? So think about some of the problems that this may cause, and think about what it means I hope that our Social Security income doesn't get cut, but unless we put more money in, that's going to be very difficult. I know in the last 40 years, the family, people having families been going down. We have less people having kids, and percentage of people working in the marketplace, just not enough money to pay everyone's retirement. But again, I would hope that things will change. But until that time, we need to go back to work. So I would hope that market opens up so that we could go back to work starting maybe next week. So let's talk about some of these claiming strategies that you could take under this economic conditions. Should you take Social Security income later or the age that you're supposed to? Anybody who were born prior to 1954, your full retirement age is 66. If you were born between 1954, so 55 through 1959, then your full retirement age is 66 and 2 months for every year after 1954 until you reach the age or the year that you were born. If you're born after 1960 and beyond, if you're younger than that, then your full retirement age is 67. What should you do? Should you take the Social Security income now or should you wait? Well, it all depends on you, but typically what I recommend is I always try to share my own personal situations. And I have a sister who has retired for a while now, and she's going to be 62 very soon. I'm telling my sister to go ahead and take the money at 62. I just don't know why she wouldn't, because even if she doesn't need the money, by taking it, she could pay the taxes and invest the difference into some type of account. If she doesn't need it or doesn't want to do it, then certainly she could wait till she's 67 to do that. Or if you could wait all the way through when she turns age 70, that's the plan that I have. Wait until age 70, I'll be getting extra 8% per year beyond the full retirement age. Government will guarantee to give me that money when I retire. So should you take it now? Should you take it early? It all depends on what type of income needs you have. And by taking it early, obviously you're taking the benefit earlier, but you're going to get less money. Between the full retirement age of 66 versus taking it early at 62, you're going to be getting a 25% less in income forever. So if your Social Security was supposed to be $2,000 a month starting at 66, if you were to take it at 62, it will be only $1,500 a month. And cost of future cost of living adjustment will be less as well, because you're at the lower rate, lower amount of $1,500. Whatever the amount that you get is going to add up to be a lesser amount. So if you decide to take it at 62 and you decided that within the next 12 months that either you don't want to take it anymore or you got a job, so you're back into the marketplace where you could live off from the income that you generate, then you could pay that back, pay the Social Security back, and you could defer that until the next time or whenever the time that you truly want to retire full time. So you're able to do that. And by doing so, and as long as you're working, you're able to put more money into your own retirement. I don't know how many of you, or I hope most of you know, it's not just about qualifying for a Social Security by working 40 quarters, but you got to work 40 quarters just to qualify, the minimum age of 62. But they calculate your retirement by adding the top 35 years worth of your income. So more income you make, typically people living longer, working till their 60s and 70s, they tend to make more money than when they started their career at age 20 or 30. So top 35 years of income will be added and divided into how many 35 years times 12 months. And that number will just figure out what your full retirement is going to be. So work as long as you can, as long as that you like working. Some of you had enough, so you may want to find a way to retire it early. So let's talk about some of the exceptions that coronavirus-related distribution has changed. What has changed is, starting in January of this year through the end of this year, if you have been diagnosed by COVID-19 or your family, your spouse or your kids, then you're able to pull the money out from an IRA account, even if you're age 59 or younger. In the past, you had to pay the penalty of 10%, but now that the government says, because what's going on with this pandemic, that they're going to allow you to pull out either from your 401ks or IRAs up to $100,000. That's $100,000 can be taken out, and you'll be exempted from paying the 10% penalty. Obviously, you still got to pay taxes on that, so you may not want to do that. But if you have a need and you got money sitting in your retirement account, I certainly would be advising people to take it out if you have a need for it. It's better to take the money out of your own account rather than borrowing money from the bank or from somewhere else. Especially, you don't want to take it out from a credit card with a higher credit card interest rate. Some of the takeaways I get from this CARES Act is something that you got to think about what we had gotten in 2020. If you're receiving the money in Social Security, you have seen your money grow by 1.6%. That was paid out to you starting in January, actually February of this year. And last year we got a 2.8% hike, or a little raise. I don't even know if we're going to have any type of hike going on in 2021 because of our domestic product, gross GDP is not growing. I doubt that we're going to get any type of hike next year. So that's going to hurt us if the inflation's here, or price of goods. I know the groceries are much more expensive today than it was even a month ago. So hopefully there have some type of adjustments to help all of us out. And if you're still working, last year the Social Security was based on the maximum amount of contribution is someone making under 132,000, 132,900 was the amount. Anything above that, you only had to pay for a Medicare. Now it has been risen another $5,000 and 5,000, almost 5,000 to 137,700. So all the way up to 137,000, you will be paying 6.2% of Social Security retirement and 1.45% of Medicare. But once you go beyond the 137, you only need to pay the Medicare amount beyond that. So what else is going on? As I already said to you, that if you're self-employed, you don't need to worry about paying the double the amount if you decide to defer that for 2 years. Just save that money so that you're not surprised end of next year or 2022 to pay all those taxes. So I understand that there are some questions that's been coming in. There are a lot more information that I could have gone over. But again, I try to keep this thing in about 25 minutes of talk and another 10 to 15 minutes of conversation. So I want to bring Joe back into the screen, and Joe's going to ask me about the questions that you may have proposed. So Joe?
Yep, we have some questions here. So the first question is, do you take care of transferring money from 403Bs to a Roth IRA, or do I call my financial institution to do it myself?
Well, it depends on who your custodian is. Someone I just met this morning decided to move their 401ks to us to manage. And it happens that their 401k was managed by Fidelity. Fidelity is one of the custodians that we work with very closely. And a lot of times for Fidelity, you only just need to tell them where the money's going. You certainly don't want to touch that. You want to have a direct transfer of the money, meaning that you tell your custodian, if you were to send the money to us, just tell them where the money's going. Just realize that I never touch your money. You know, we deal with the custodians too, and if you decide to have the money come in for us to manage, TD Ameritrade Institutional will receive the money, and I get to manage your account just because you allow me to do it. So sometimes if you don't know how to do that, we have all the paperwork here, so we could help you to do that directly without you getting involved. But sometimes you may have to get involved. Most of the times we're able to handle it our own. Joe, anything else?
Yep, a few more here. So the next question, if a married partner waited until age 70 to take Social Security and dies, what options does the spouse have who took Social Security at age 62?
Well, that's a really good question. There's two parts to it. If I'm going to use two ways of looking at this. Let's say instead of the age difference, you both are the same age. Let's say my wife and I, we both could retire at 66. Let's say that was our full retirement age. If my wife did not work outside of home and she stayed at home to raise our kids, then whatever the amount that I was going to get, let's say it's a $3,000 a month, then my wife would have gotten $1,500 to half of it. Now, if she was younger, let's say she's 62 years old, then she should either wait till she's 66 to receive half of mine, or if she decided to receive at age 62 because she's 4 years younger, she would get a 25% less of the half. So if I'm getting $3,000, she would normally get a $1,500 at age 66, but because she wants to take it at age 62, she would receive 25% less of the 1,500, so it comes down to, I think, 1,175. I'm trying to do the math in my head, but you're going to get a 25% less. And down the road, when I die, let's say at age 70 or beyond, whatever the age is, she would always get, not even though she could switch it over to mine, but she's going to get a 25% less of that forever. So just keep an eye on that. What else, Joe?
Yep. The next question, it says, I retired in January 2019. I made over $85,000 in 2018, but not in 2019. I have not yet filed my 2019 taxes. Will I still receive a stimulus check, or do I have to file my 2019 taxes first?
Well, there's the three numbers you got to look at. You know, then 80,000, I think I understand why you asked that. If you're a single person, your income had to be below the 75,000. If you're single and yet you have kids and you're head of a household, your income could have been 112,500. If you're filing jointly, then your income could be $150,000. So if you are a single person, again, made $80,000 in 2018 taxes, then I would suggest you to file for 2019 since the income was low. Otherwise, you will not receive the stimulus. So it's important to do that. Just do your paperwork, even if it's a simple one, submit that, and then let them know how much money you made. Certainly in 2019, then you would have made very little because you retire at January. By doing so, you would receive that stimulus money.
Okay. The next question is it better to take or not take my RMD for this year, my required minimum distribution for this year?
I think I shared that with you earlier. It all depends on you. You know, if you're used to taking the RMDs and used to paying taxes, and you know what that amount is, and you figured that into your budget, and you're fine with that, well, perhaps you may want to still take the money even though you don't need to. Maybe you should take it, pay taxes, and again, use that money for some other, maybe doing an IRA conversion. So that's something you really need to consider and talk to your advisor about. So if you have any questions and you're working with me, just give me a call, make an appointment, or we could do a phone appointment or a Zoom appointment. Hopefully we could see you face to face so we could get together and talk about those issues.
Okay, and we will close it out with this question. If we did not get to your question, we will reach out to you to answer your question personally. So the final question for today's session is, I was born in 1964 and my spouse in 1962. What is our full retirement age?
Again, both of you, anybody born beyond the age 1960 or later, your full retirement age is 67. Okay, but I know there's many bills going through. The Social Security 2100 Act is proposed changes. They're trying to raise the full retirement age to age 69 from 67. I have a feeling within the next couple of years, if not certainly within the next 10, they're going to be raising that. Hopefully, they would grandfather out anybody who's already into the 50s. Since you were born in 62 or 64, you're 58 and 56 years old. I think you will be okay. Still be able to accept the money at age 67 as a full retirement. But for my kids, I have a feeling that by the time they get to the retirement age, their full retirement age might be 69 or even age 70. So that's when it is. Try to save as much as you can and try to not take any unnecessary chances. If you're able to gain back some of the losses you have, it may be a good time for you to try to safeguard some of it. So take any type of growth that you have in the last month or so, hopefully rebound back for the rest of the year. At some point, safeguard as much as you can by working with someone. So with that, Joe, you got any other questions?
That's all the time we have. So if you just want to close it out, and we'll leave it at that.
Sounds great. Folks, thank you so much for joining us. I know sometimes I ramble on, and hopefully you learn something from this. Sometimes that, we try to cover as much as we can, but we also don't want to go over too long. But we're here to help you. Our whole staff, some of us are working in the office today, but certainly everyone's working out of their homes at all times. I'm virtually here every day. There's a lot going on still. So just rest assured, we're here to help you. We're here to safeguard your money and work as hard as we can so that, we could add something to your retirement. Folks, have a wonderful week. I understand the weather could be as warm as 80 degrees on Saturday. If the weather's good, go outside and enjoy the sun. And I look forward to seeing you next week. So until then, God bless you. Bye-bye.